Am I the a-hole for making all the women in my family leave after they all showed up to my wedding wearing white? I, male 33, have a large family. Mostly aunts and female cousins aside from mom, stepmom, stepsister, and grandmother. I don't know how to say this, but all those women I mentioned above are into teasing and joking. They've formed a unit, which I admit is kind of toxic, and they tease and roast every new woman that enters the family by marriage by setting up tests to see if they deserve to be part of the family, or roast their looks and styles to the point of breaking confidence and self-esteem down. Then after a few months of teasing, they'd announce that they've finally welcomed them into the family. The newest member would join in on the teasing too, which is crazy as my dad says. When I first introduced my then girlfriend, now wife, I made it clear that I didn't want any of the women in the unit to come at her or harass her, not even a single word. They went behind my back and roasted her looks and job. And I discovered they've been doing it on Facebook. I had them apologize one by one after they gave the "we're just testing the water to see if she's capable to be part of the family" excuse. They didn't want to apologize, but once I said I wouldn't invite any of the units unless they apologize, including my mom, everyone immediately apologized and brought gifts for my wife. First of them was my stepmom and my sister-in-law. My wedding was 2 weeks ago. There was talk about the women in the family wanting to pull a prank on my wife by wearing white, and called it the ultimate test to see how my wife react. My brother warned me, so I announced that if any one of them showed up in white, I would have them kicked out, including mom. They said this wasn't true, and that they'd never do such a thing. But then they showed up to my wedding one by one, wearing white dresses, and each and every one of them was told to leave after they tried giving excuses, by either making scenes or getting the men involved. The senior women of the unit who are mom and aunts also showed up in white, but refused to leave. I threatened to take harsher action, and mom was pissed, telling me to step aside, but I didn't let her in. I had her leave while the men of the family were watching stunned. Dad was on my side and supported me a lot. I felt absolutely awful because my wedding was being interrupted by them making scenes. My wife was hurt beyond measure, but the women in the family were pissed. My cousin blasted me in social media later, saying I excluded all the women from the wedding because my wife was so insecure that she couldn't handle another woman's presence at her wedding. I had an argument with them, and mom berated me saying it was supposed to be a prank, but I said they were taking it too far. Mom said it took it too far by kicking them out, because they were trying to get a reaction from my wife to see if she was one of those BrideZillas, and were going to change soon as the prank was over. But I ruined my own entire wedding by reacting so aggressively. I stopped talking after she said I had to bring my wife and apologize. I haven't seen a lot of them in 2 weeks, and they've excluded me from everything. Was I the a-hole for how I handled this? Edit. I just want to explain that A, this has been happening for years. The men in the family are split on this behavior. Some of them encourage it, like my uncle and my cousin's husbands. One is now an ex. And some are against it, like me and my dad and brother. B, the women claim that there's nothing hurtful in what they do, because they claim they're just looking out for us men, and that their goal ultimately is to make sure the women who enter the family are decent. C, my dad always ends up arguing with my mom and grandmother, since they're the ones who started this whole thing with their behavior and attitude towards other women. D, and I'm not sure if I should mention this, but my male cousin, who's a middle schooler, said he'd make sure to leave the country before even meeting any woman because of this, and it made me chuckle. Also, the dresses they showed up in were simple white dresses. Nothing over the top, but still were white dresses. I realized they went ahead with their plans, even after I stated what I'd do in that case. Now for the top comments. Not today, home. Your family's toxic, and I'm so sad for your wife that they would do that, but also so happy for her that she has a husband who will support her and have her back. I'm sorry your family tried to hijack your wedding for a power play, but you did the right thing, and your marriage will be stronger because of it. Can you imagine how the wife's family thought about all of this? If I were the mother of Opie's wife, I would be really worried about my daughter being around those women. Good on Opie for breaking the cycle. Not today, home. This level of hazing has crossed the line to emotional mistreatment and blackmail, and that is probably understating it. It's very good you stood up for your spouse. You handled it well, but emotional blackmailers use family to pressure the victims into compliance with the mistreatment. Most often, when standing up to familial emotional blackmailers, it ends with forced no contact for non-compliance. No contact is healthier, but it can be hard to be shunned from the family. This is hazing. That's the only word for it. It's repugnant behavior. The women in your family haze new members of their sorority. It is incredibly harmful. No. First cardinal rule, don't wear white to a wedding unless you're the bride. If you do, you're the a-hole. I'm sure they're well aware of this rule. That's why they did what they did. They knew how much that would make my wife feel hurt. To me, that's the point you and her have to stick to going forward. So many sweet daughter-in-laws try to make amends by focusing on, you hurt me, please stop. But the women in your family know they hurt people with us. And that is the very reason they do it. They intentionally hurt people and only stop once that hurt person joins in on picking on the next one. So I think you and your wife should consider just not giving these women more opportunities to hurt people you love. You should probably think about going low or no contact. People who intentionally hurt their own son on his wedding day like this don't really deserve to be part of your new beautiful life. I'd be worried about how they'll treat your wife as the marriage progresses, especially if you decide to have children. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for what I said when my husband told his family basically I handled everything in the house? So me, female 26, and my husband, male 29, recently got married. We both contribute to household chores, but me more than him even after we made separate schedule and split chores equally. He'd ask me for favors like fix the kitchen faucet for him, deal with the bugs in the backyard, etc., which are originally his chores. But because he said he had to finish work or complain from being tired, then I'd handle them happily and without hesitation. We were visiting his parents for the first time since we got married. My mother-in-law and I were talking about home duties and whatnot. Then my father-in-law asked my husband how marriage life was treating him, and my husband sighed and said, "Oh man." Then started talking about how exhausted he was from handling almost all responsibilities and taking on so many chores this past week. From fixing the kitchen faucet, dealing with the bugs in the backyard, taking our dogs to the vet, cleaning the entire basement, which are all things I did for him. But clearly he was trying to take credit. It kept on about how he does most chores around the house and working as well, so he had no me time. He said, basically, I handle everything in the house, while smug smiling. I was taken aback completely. I said, hold on, because literally all the stuff he mentioned was done by me. His parents were like, huh? He kept staring at me confused, as I explained in details how I handled each and every one of those chores, which should have originally had been done by him, but he kept making excuses to get out of it. I even shared pictures I took that I posted on Facebook, especially the basement like before/after pictures. Then I told him no more favors from now on if this is how he's gonna play. Silence followed, and the entire family side-eyed my husband as he kept looking away. He didn't say anything till we got home. And that is where he pointed out how I was wrong for how I responded, and should have just either agreed or said nothing at all, but apparently made him feel incompetent in front of his family. We argued, and he apologized for saying what he said, and asked me to apologize so we could move past this. But I refused, and said I was being treated in an unfair manner since I worked hard to do him those favors. Not today, home. He made you look lazy in front of your in-laws. And not only did he lie about taking the brunt of household responsibilities, but he specifically brought up chores that you both know you did. That's not okay. It is purposefully putting you down in front of others. Not a great start to a marriage. This. Not only did he expect you to go along with a lie, he also expects you to apologize for it. Apologize for what exactly? Him playing stupid games? I don't think so. This would be my hill to die on. He put you down to his family to make you look bad because he couldn't come out and be honest. His lies had consequences. One of them having to be his apology for causing an issue, not yours. Your husband is an a-hole. He deserves to feel incompetent because he chose to be that way. You didn't put a gun to his head and tell him to lie. Why should you clean up his mess and apologize? Hell no, OP. Be honest about what though? This is just such a weird thing to lie about that I have to wonder his motivation. Why on earth wouldn't he have just said, actually, we've just kind of been settling in? Or even, meh, I wasn't feeling great this week, so the wife picked up the slack this week. This is his family. They know his character pretty well. I think most adults are past trying to impress mommy and daddy. He literally just went out of his way, for no reason, to make his wife look bad. Not today, home. If he doesn't want to feel incompetent, then he should be incompetent. I never understand people would do this. Like he knows he does nothing. He knows Opie knows he does nothing. But then he tells bold-faced lies and gets hurt when the truth comes out. Like, if you know the truth is going to make you seem a certain way, then why don't you just shut your mouth or put in the work you want credit for? He could have even said, "It's hard, but OP has been great," if he wants to play like he contributes. But he chose to lie unprovoked and is now trying to guilt her into an apology. Just yikes. The only person who made him look bad is himself by lying. Good for you for calling him out and sticking to it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for going to stay with my in-laws after my husband told me I shouldn't be here when I tried to surprise him and getting him in trouble with his family? So, my husband travels a lot for business, so we don't get to see each other as often as I would like, unless I go with him, which isn't always possible. I found out he was going to be in the country his parents live in, and I thought it would be a nice idea to fly there too, so I could surprise him and see my in-laws as well, since I haven't seen my husband since August and my in-laws since 2019. Well, it didn't go down as I had planned. The first thing my husband said when he saw me was, "You shouldn't be here." And when I asked him what he meant by that, all he said was he had a meeting that he was getting late for and left. Honestly, his whole reaction really hurt, since I thought he would be happy to see me, since we haven't seen each other in so long. I ended up going to see my in-laws since my sister-in-law was also visiting her parents, and she kept telling me to come over. When I got there, they were much happier to see me, but noticed I was upset about something. They kept asking me, and I told them about how my husband had reacted. My mother-in-law basically told me I would be staying with them for the duration of my visit, since he couldn't appreciate me coming all this way to see him. My father-in-law sent me a message telling him to come to their house for dinner since I was here, and when he got here, they basically told him off for how he reacted. Once dinner was over, my husband wanted me to come home with him so we could talk about what happened. But my in-laws kept insisting I stay with them instead, and I ended up choosing to stay with them instead of going with him. My husband comes over every single night for dinner and is very obviously angry at me still. We did talk about it through text the day it happened, and my husband was mad that I chose to stay, and that I ran to tattle to his family. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. His reaction is concerning and leaves me wondering if he's got a second family, a second wife, or a mistress. And I also wonder if his family is aware. Yep, first thought. "You shouldn't be here" is a very weird way to react, even if he is busy or stressed. Yes, I'm away from home for college and don't get to see my family. College is hard and I feel stressed all the time. When my parents and brother visit though, it's like the stress disappears, even if it's just for a minute or two, and then the feeling's right back. I would imagine seeing my significant other would elicit an even greater response of joy. I've been at a new job for about a month that requires 50% travel. I was away last week, home this week, and I'm leaving Monday for another week. If my partner showed up at my hotel or office to surprise me partway through the week, I would be overjoyed. Just to show up for the other side of this, I would not be overjoyed at a surprise like this. So I think it's a little unfair for the sub to immediately pile onto this guy, for not being stoked about a pretty huge change of plans he has to navigate around now. If Opie had given him some space to get over the initial disgruntlement and heard his side of it rather than bring the in-laws into it, letting them tear into him without hearing his side, and then choosing to stay with them without even hearing his side, there's a decent possibility Opie wouldn't even be here posting this. If I were on a business trip and I already had a general sense of how everything was going to go, and I was on my way out the door, and then my significant other showed up out of the blue without me being able to get her settled in or have time to process what was going on, I'd have to be rattled right before a meeting that I was already running late for. My initial response would be less than warm, let's just say. It would be more along the lines of, "What are you doing here?" Meaning, "I can't pay attention to you right now, and we're not going to have a quality interaction. But now I'm rattled and have to recalibrate," which I can do, but it's going to have to happen after the meeting. And I really wish you hadn't put me in the spot, which could have been easily avoided with a text message that I would have really appreciated. But that's me. I don't think it's fair for Opie to show up out of nowhere and then be upset that her husband didn't give her the welcome she wanted right before a business meeting. Just because she might have liked such a surprise doesn't mean everyone is into that. I feel like people who like surprises and change gears easily don't understand people who don't, and then get their feelings hurt like this. Last story. Am I the a-hole for abruptly leaving my boyfriend at his family at dinner after they refused to respect my allergies? I, 19 female, recently got the chance to safely see my boyfriend, 20 male, family for dinner. I work as a paramedic and would reject going to any plans my boyfriend had with me wanting to go see his family due to COVID. I recently got the chance to have a 2-week vacation. I decided to accept my boyfriend's offer to see his family. I asked my boyfriend what would be served, and just checking in to see if what they would make won't have seafood/shellfish, since I'm allergic to them. The day comes that I had a good time with them, up until the time for us to eat. I noticed that the food they had mostly had either seafood in it, or was entirely seafood. I asked if they had anything else, but my boyfriend insisted I should just eat a little to not be disrespectful. I stood my ground and informed him and his family that I'm severely allergic to seafood. And after they insisted that they won't serve me or make anything that doesn't have seafood, I thanked them and left. Today, I got angry text messages from my boyfriend, upset that I disrespected him and his family, and wanted me to apologize to them. But I'm not going to. Am I the a-hole? This is a tough one. Should you protect yourself from a severe allergy attack, or should you protect your boyfriend's family's feelings? Not today, Hollow B. And drop the boyfriend. He's got a medical condition where his head is stuck real deep somewhere. It blows my mind how many of these types of posts I read where an in-law family expects a daughter-in-law or sister-in-law to eat what they're allergic to. It's like, so you would rather they die? Okay then. What is disrespectful is telling someone to endanger themselves to cater to people and willing to be reasonable people. Your boyfriend is actively trying to hurt you. And his family. There is literally no reason that every dish had up have seafood in it. These people were trying to prove Opie was lying about her allergies. If she had eaten it, then she would have been blamed because she had an attack. This boyfriend is bad news, and I would dump him.